Sup, guys? 1-1 yesterday. This is like a continuous slow fall off a cliff, and I just keep grabbing branches, tiny branches, and they keep snapping, and I keep sliding down the side of the cliff. This is awesome. Easy win on the total yesterday, the under, whichever game that was in. I don't even remember. And it was Minnesota Twins. Minnesota Twins against, who were they up against? Who knows? I don't even remember. I don't remember anything anymore, man. Everything is just a blur at this point. Minnesota, Philadelphia, and then Toronto Blue Jays was a loss. I don't know if it necessarily should have been. Tampa won that game with only 4 hits. They scored 4 runs off of 4 hits. Toronto had 6 hits. Still didn't wind up winning the game. So, of course, you know what I'm going to do after that happens. I'm going to bet on Toronto again today. That's what I'm going to do. I got 2 plays today. We got a bunch of afternoon games today. It is getaway day, as they call it in Major League Baseball, the last day of a series. So a lot of teams that are traveling get to play earlier in the day so that they can get away. I want to get away. And they travel and go on to the next series, of course. Which games am I on today? I'm reading the market here, man, and I actually agree not only with the market, but I agree with the starting pitching matchup and sort of the situation in these games. So that's where I'm going. First game up is going to be to play in the afternoon in the Interleague against my Boston Red Sox. I'm fading Nick Pivetta again. I faded him, I believe, at the beginning of that Dodgers series, and he pitched well, and I got a little bit lucky in that one. But this one I'm taking the pitcher who is the worst pitcher, but in this certain situation, I don't necessarily think that he is. So looking at the market, this is the Red Sox are a heavy public road favorite, and the line is slipping. Red Sox are down from -160 to -147, 85% of the tickets, 77% of the cash. So they are a public road favorite with reverse line movement going against them. The more of the cash coming in on the other side, even though the majority of tickets and cash on the Red Sox, according to the market read here, but less of the cash than the tickets. This is the type of thing I like to look for, man. You got that heavy public road favorite that's being overvalued in the market, and you can tell because the cash percentage is less than the ticket percentage on them, and the market is moving in the direction against them. That's where you want to look. You can actually take, you can make this into a regular spread bet, actually. You can actually take the Colorado Rockies right now, plus 1.5 runs. I think at -110 right now, right? Yeah, you can. So you can actually make it a spread bet and then just sprinkle a little bit on the plus 140 money line. Although if you want to make the whole bet, Colorado Rockies money line, go ahead. But I'm making it the spread bet, basically, plus 1.5 runs on Colorado, and then just that little sprinkle on the money line. Looking at this, the Red Sox, I mean, they won yesterday. They lost the first game of the series. Am I saying that they're going to lose this series to the Rockies? Yes, I am. I mean, when you're an AL East team like this, even if you're playing a bad team like the Rockies, you're playing out. You play the West Coast. You play a long series, tough games against the Dodgers and lose every one of them pretty close. Then you have to go into elevation. You lose the first game to the Rockies. You win yesterday in a shutout. Maybe the Rockies will turn it around a little bit, and maybe the Red Sox will get a little bit complacent here after, we just shut them out. We can beat this Rockies team, right? They suck. And the Red Sox do have tomorrow off. So the fact that they're playing the afternoon game doesn't necessarily help them that much because they don't play tomorrow. But after that, they play the New York Yankees. That is a huge series for the Red Sox, obviously. Red Sox-Yankees, the big rivalry, the AL East battle. So the Red Sox could be in a look-ahead spot here because of that. So they could be distracted just because they easily beat Colorado yesterday. May take their foot off the gas a little bit here and could be looking ahead to the Yankees coming up next. Neither team used a lot of their bullpen really yesterday. The Red Sox only used 2 of their relievers for a very short amount of time. Cooper Criswell did pretty well yesterday, pitched for 7 innings, but the Rockies didn't really do anything with their bullpen either. They used 2 long relief men yesterday. So, yeah, I guess that means if they get into a long relief situation here, they might not have that much to do. But they saved the rest of their bullpen by using those 2 guys. So the bullpen situation, even though the Rockies pen threw way more pitches yesterday, they still it comes down to the fact that both teams basically just used 2 pitchers yesterday. So I don't think the bullpen scenario is that bad, even though Colorado's is worse than the Red Sox. But we're making a full game because I'm making it that spread play, like I said, and because of the situation where I think the Red Sox could be distracted late in this game. And then looking at the starting pitching matchup, Nick Pavetta's pitching. Yes, he has good numbers this year, 3.87 ERA, 1.09 whip. All that's good. 96 strikeouts, 21 walks, and 81 in the third innings. Only allowed 68 hits. Pretty good, very high strikeout rate, actually. The walk number is okay. It's a little bit high and not allowed many hits at all. So he's pitching well, but he is coming off a 6-inning shutout, 2-hit performance where his team didn't get behind him really, and they still lost the game to the Dodgers, and I got lucky in that one. I just mentioned that game. He had an 8-to-1 strikeout walk ratio in that one, but does that mean he's going to even be in kind of a letdown spot after that? Because he had a big step-up game against the Dodgers and pitched really well in that one. He did only throw 90 pitches. For some reason, Pivetta doesn't really throw that many pitches. He's usually either pretty efficient with his pitches or he gets pulled from the game earlier than you would expect. Like in the month of June, he threw 2 7-inning games, but he went 4, 4, and 4 1/3 in a few of the other ones. So he's kind of all over the place as far as how many innings he throws. Then in the month of July, he went 7 innings, but it was a 1-hitter, but it was against an awful Miami lineup. He went 6 2/3 and had 10 strikeouts in each of these games against Oakland, but Oakland sucks too. But now he's coming off that good game against the Dodgers. Could be in line for a little bit of a letdown. I'd gone against him because his stats were bad against the Dodgers. Well, his stats are also bad against Colorado, and this is a different environment, man. This is a worse pitching environment, and if you're not really used to throwing in the high elevation like this, that could affect you a little bit. But Pivetta has not done well against Colorado's hitters in his career, man, even though this is a small sample size to be looking at. Colorado does have a few good hitters on the team, and they are 8 for 23 lifetime off of Nick Pivetta. The only extra base hit, though, is a home run, but 5 RBIs, 5-5 strikeout walk ratio. So he's struggled with his command against them, too. He has they have a 348 batting average against him and 943 OPS. So Pavetta's stats against Colorado, not good. And then on the other side, Cal Quantrill is pitching for Colorado. He's certainly not good. He's got a 4.15 ERA, which is mediocre, and a 1.34 whip is not good. 83-41 strikeout walk ratio, also not very good. 104 hits allowed and 108 1/3 innings isn't that bad, though. So he has not been that hittable, but his walk number is quite high, and he doesn't strike out that many guys. So that's kind of the issue there is his command, and it still remains an issue as he has an 11-7 strikeout walk ratio in the month of July here, with a 5-inning performance, a 6-inning performance, and a 2-inning performance, where he did not do well at all. At Cincinnati, though, tough place to pitch, although Colorado's a tough place to pitch too, but Quantrill is at least used to pitching in this environment because he's been on Colorado, so he should be used to it now. I mean, this is his first season there, but he's been there for this entire season now, so he should be more used to it than Nick Pivetta is. And looking at his stats against the Red Sox, we actually have more of a sample size here than we have with the Pivetta side of it, which is weird because Quantrill was in the AL up until this year. I think he was on Cleveland, and he was actually in San Diego really early in his career, but he spent most of his career so far with Cleveland. Red Sox have seen him a little bit, and the Red Sox are not good against him, man. Jarren Duran is 0 for 10 off him with 4 strikeouts and no walks. The Red Sox overall are 4 for 29 off him with 2 doubles, a home run, 3 RBIs. He's got an 11-1 strikeout walk ratio against them. He's held him to a 138 batting average and a 477 OPS. So the Red Sox hitters have really done badly against him. 6 of the Red Sox hitters have seen him before, and 4 of them have not reached base against him. Yeah, that's correct. 4 of them are combined 0 for, I'm doing the math here, are combined 0 for 19 off of him with, I don't even know, 8 strikeouts and no walks, something like that. That's Duran, O'Neill, Refsnyder, and Smith. So a couple of the better hitters on the Red Sox mixed in there. Red Sox have not fared well against Quantrill, man. So that's what we're going to do on the first play there. Colorado Rockies plus 1.5 runs, basically making it into a spread bet there at minus 110. And then on the other one, I told you what I'm doing. I'm going right back to taking the Toronto Blue Jays here. We see Tampa is a road favorite here, and I just don't think it's justified. Even though Toronto's record sucks, Toronto lost yesterday. The public is actually not coming in on Toronto, even though they're a home underdog now. And I just think this is getting too far. With this pitching matchup, the public's going to ignore it because they don't know who this Toronto pitcher is, and he's struggled at times, this being his rookie season. But Tampa's got one of their worst pitchers going, in my opinion, too. So I don't know. Tampa's pitching is all kind of, their starting pitchers are all kind of a mix. Like, they're all just kind of mediocre, I think. Tampa's gone up from minus 105 to minus 110 here, it looks like. But 64% of the tickets on Tampa, but 65% of the cash over on the other side on Toronto. So it looks like it's a pros versus Joes, or the public is coming in on Tampa. Tampa won yesterday. They have the better record. Public doesn't want anything to do with this bad Toronto team. Public at least knows who Tampa's pitcher is. They've never heard of Toronto's pitcher. Whatever. Tampa's above 500. Toronto's in last place. Both of these teams used a lot of relief pitchers yesterday. Tampa, of course, Tampa, as I mentioned yesterday, they went with the opener approach with Armstrong. Then they wound up having to go pretty deep into their bullpen to wind up getting a save out of it. And they used some of their best relievers to finish the game off. They used their closer, Fairbanks. They used a couple of their hold men there at the end. So Tampa used 5 of their relievers, and they used a couple of their better relievers there at the end. Blue Jays also used 5 relievers, but a couple of their worst relievers mixed in there. So the bullpen situation, I mean, the Blue Jays bullpen is pretty awful. Both of these bullpens aren't that good, but which of these bullpens is in worse shape? Could arguably be Tampa, because they used so many of their better relievers to save that game yesterday. And a lot of times I know that with the opener approach, teams tend to do well in the game after they go with the opener approach, because they kind of save some of their better relievers and they use like their long relief man for a lot of it. That wasn't the case with what Tampa did yesterday. They used one long relief guy, Alexander, I think, but then they had to dip into their better relievers to save the game yesterday. So the bullpen situation, I think we're fine, still going full game on this one with the way that the situation works out here. And then we look at the starting pitching matchup, of course. And this series continues tomorrow, by the way. So some of these series are continuing. So it's not getaway day for all these teams. Or some of the teams playing afternoon games today. Some of them, I believe, are ending the series today. But I think those teams probably have tomorrow off. I think tomorrow's probably a shortened MLB schedule tomorrow. We'll have to look. Look at the starting pitching matchup here. Zach Eflin is pitching for Tampa, and he's not that bad. He's got a 4.14 ERA, which is mediocre, but his 1.17 whip is good. 83 to 13 strikeout walk ratio is good, although the strikeout rate isn't high, but his command is really good. It's a very low walk number, but he's allowed 109 hits and 104 in a third innings. So it does tell you that maybe he's putting too many pitches over the plate. So even though he's not walking that many guys, he's not striking out that many guys, and he's allowing probably too much contact. I mean, I think he's kind of a guy that relies on contact, but he's given up some hard contact. It looks like maybe too many hits to some extent. He's coming off back-to-back starts against the Yankees too. So you talk about letdown. Maybe he's going to be in like a letdown or hangover spot after that. He had one really good start against the Yankees in the first one and then a not good start in the next start. But coming off 2 starts against the Yankees, man, maybe he's going to like backslide a little bit here potentially. And, of course, I always look at what these pitchers do against the opposing hitters. So that's the theme of these 2 plays today, man. Not just a market read where the market looks like it agrees with me, but the starting pitching matchup against the opposing hitters looks to be in favor of one side pretty significantly. And we have a big sample size here with Eflin against Toronto's hitters. They are 21 for 75 off him lifetime with 7 doubles, 2 home runs, 12 RBIs. He does have an 11-2 strikeout walk ratio against them, which is pretty Eflin-esque, but Toronto has a 280 batting average off him with all that and a 752 OPS. That's getting into the high territory there. So Toronto hits him pretty well. Then on the other side, a guy that I have brought up multiple times and bet on him a couple of times, or bet on unders with him maybe once or twice as well. I don't even remember, but Yariel Rodriguez in his rookie season or his debut season, because he is 27, because he was pitching in Cuba for a couple of years. He is the Toronto pitcher today. He's got a pretty good 3.78 ERA. That's good for this being your first season in the majors, but his whip is 1.38 because he is too wild. That's the problem. He has not been very hittable, but he's got to get the walks under control, man. So he's a guy, the one concern here is that he doesn't go as deep into games, but he has been going deeper in his recent starts than he did at the start of the season. So at the start of the season, he had 4 starts in April, and he didn't go more than 4 innings in any of them, although he didn't allow more than 3 earned runs in any of them either. So he kind of kept them in the ball game in those. Then they either sent him down, or I don't know what it was. They brought him back up in late June. He had one really bad start against Cleveland, but then in the month of July, he went 6 2/3, 6, and then he had a tough 4-inning performance, which wasn't very good at Arizona, but Arizona's got a good offense. That's a tough place to play. He still struck out 7 guys in that one. So his strikeout rate this month is quite high, 19 and 16 2/3, but he's walked 7 guys. He's only allowed 7 hits. So he's been really difficult to hit, especially with that one hitter against Seattle. He only allowed 2 hits against Houston. But the problem is his walks, obviously. So he's got to get that under control, because you can tell he has good stuff. Overall this season, he's got 36 strikeouts, but 18 walks and 28 hits allowed in 33 1/3 innings. So he's not allowing a lot of hits. He's walking way too many guys, and the strikeout rate is more than 9 per 9 innings. So that's a high strikeout rate too. So again, he obviously has good stuff. The problem is the command, and that's the one thing he's got to get under control, man. But Tampa, their offense isn't one of the greater offenses. I don't know if they're going to be able to totally take advantage of this. And of course, this is their first time seeing him. This is a theme of mine, obviously. Yariel Rodriguez, when you have a pitcher like this who has good stuff, good strikeout stuff, can fool hitters, and these hitters are facing him for the first time, the pitcher has a little bit of an edge there. And Rodriguez, even though he has been walking guys, he's been getting out of jams too, at least. So even though I tend to weigh the whip pretty heavily, and I don't like his whip, and I don't like the amount of walks, of course, but this situation, I think, just kind of calls for it. Rodriguez hasn't been allowing that many runs at the very least. So we need Toronto to be able to just get this done, man. And this is, of course, playing them on the money line. But as I was finishing saying, pitcher tends to have the edge the first couple of times against the hitters who haven't seen them before, if the pitcher does have good stuff. And I think he does. So we're getting Toronto at home as a money line underdog at plus 102 here. So I like that. So those 2 plays are Colorado Rockies plus 1.5, just minus 110. Sprinkle a little bit on the plus 140 money line, but playing that as a spread bet, and then Toronto money line plus 102. Those are the 2 plays. And speaking of wildness, before I get out of here, this is not one that I actually want to play, although I considered it, but the market looks heavily against it, which is the Baltimore Orioles. The market has actually moved down on the Orioles, minus 145 down to minus 126, with 90% of the tickets on the Orioles, but only 52% of the cash. So it does look like Baltimore, of course, they're heavily public because they're at Miami. Baltimore, everyone knows they're a way better team, way better hitting team. So they're getting all the public action, despite the public not knowing who this pitcher is for them at all. But Miami's pitcher is not good. So the public might be coming in for that reason too. But I would not want to jump in on this just because the market read is so against it. But I was thinking about potentially coming in and playing the Baltimore side in this one. But they're just too public. They're a heavily public road favorite with a lot less of the cash on them, in reverse line movement going against them. So I don't want to take my chances in that one. Even though I wouldn't be surprised if Baltimore wound up winning that game, obviously. I mean, nobody would, because Miami sucks and Baltimore does not suck. Miami won yesterday, too, so Baltimore could even be in a little bit of a bounce-back mode there. I haven't looked at what the bullpen situation was in that one, because the market just kind of kept me off of it. But both teams actually used a lot of their bullpens yesterday. Orioles both starters actually got knocked out pretty early in the game. Both teams used 4 relievers, not really any of their necessarily some of their better. Oh, actually, Miami did use their closer, Scott. So he's like their one like kind of good reliever. But so I don't know about the bullpen situation. I think Miami's bullpen is probably in the lesser spot there too, just because they have the worst bullpen, and they did use their closer yesterday, and both teams use the same amount of relievers. So a lot of what I look for in the situation does lean to the Baltimore side, but the market, like I said, is signaling very strongly against it, so I don't want to do it. That's Edward. The reason I'm bringing it up is because of Baltimore's pitcher, which I'll mention in 1 second. Edward Cabrera is pitching that game for Miami. His stats are just awful. 7.36 ERA, 1.67 whip, just terrible. He's walking way too many guys. 20 walks and 35 hits allowed in 33 innings pitched, 43 strikeouts, so he racks up a lot of strikeouts, but he walks almost half as many guys as he strikes out. So he's just walking so many guys. He walked 5 guys and only struck out 1 in his last outing against the Mets, who are a good offense. But Edward Cabrera has just been a mess, man. And his strikeout rate is so good that when he was like a younger guy, you kind of expected, oh, this guy's going to start doing well. When he had a really good 2022 season, even though his walks were really high then too, he still was keeping like the ERA down, keeping the whip down because he was so unhittable. But it seems like that has kind of flipped back around, and he's just has not been getting it done. He has not been good, but he does have the ability to turn it on and strike a lot of guys out. But then on the other side, I think you have kind of the mirror image of that. Chase McDermott is making his major league debut for Baltimore. This is why I'm bringing it up, because I like to mention guys who are in their major league debuts. He was the guy I almost wanted to come in on because his strikeout rate is wild in the minors, man. He's wild, and that's his one problem. He's very wild, but his strikeout rate is really, really high. Like it's like in the high 30-something% as far as strikeout rate. He is striking out a ton of guys in the minors. He's in AAA now, and his AAA numbers are actually good. He's got like a 3-something ERA because he strikes out so many guys, but he walks an unbelievable amount of guys. His whip is like 1.4 something, and he's really hard to hit, and he strikes out a ton of guys. He doesn't allow that many hits, and his whip is that high because his walk rate is unbelievably high. Like I think he's, I looked at the stats in AAA, and I don't even remember exactly what it was exactly, but I think he was walking like one guy every 2. I think it's even worse than that. He's just walking like a ton of guys, and his strikeout rate is incredibly high as well. So he does have good stuff. He has like a 5-pitch arsenal. He's got fastball that I think is kind of around the 94 miles an hour range. I guess he has a pretty good curveball too, and then he's got a slider, changeup. I forget, one of those pitches is pretty good as well. Has really good movement on it. I forget which. I think he actually throws a splitter or a sinker. I forget which, but doesn't really throw it very often. So it's mostly fastball, slider, curveball, changeup. And I think it is the curveball that's like his next best pitch besides the fastball. And then the other two are a little bit, I think maybe it's his slider that's just like really out of control and hard to command. I don't even know what it is, but that's what you're getting with Chase McDermott. It'll be interesting to see because he is the top prospect in Baltimore's organization as far as their pitchers are concerned at this point, I think, because I think it was Povich, but he's already up and he's doing kind of mediocre. I think McDermott has better strikeout stuff. So if he's able to somehow check his command and get those walk numbers down, he could actually be really good, but we'll see. So that is going to be, if you want to like find some way to play some props in that game, you can find like walk props or something like that in that game, or strikeout props. That game is going to be a lot of strikeouts and walks, I think, because you have both pitchers who have absolutely no command whatsoever, but they also throw hard stuff and just strike guys out a lot too. Or yeah, they throw stuff that fools hitters at the very least. So that's going to be a wild, wild game. It is an interesting game with both pitchers just being high strikeout guys and just incredibly wild. So that's going to do it for me, man. Once again, the 2 actual plays: Colorado Rockies plus 1.5 right at -110 spread bet. Sprinkle a little bit on the plus 140 money line, and then Toronto Blue Jays plus 102. Both full game plays, of course. Peace out.